It's 9 a.m. Let's call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. I'm Deb White from the Moorhead City Council, Chair of the MATBUS Committee. We'll start with introductions. So starting on my end down here, do you want to give your name and your affiliation?
Yeah, Aiden Young with MetroCog.
Ben Griffith with MetroCog.
Hayden Mastera with the city of Dilworth.
Julie Bommelman, City of Fargo.
Mike Reese, City of Moorhead.
Jenica Flanagan, City of Moorhead, Finance Director. Taryn Hicks, City of Fargo.
John Strand, City of Fargo.
Matt Panati, Chair Stuff.
Luke Gridner, City of Fargo.
Sean Kroll, City of Fargo.
Jordan Smith, City of Fargo. Ian McLean, City of Fargo.
Susan Thompson, City of Fargo, Finance Director.
Cole Swingen, City of Fargo. Adam Altenberg, MetroCog.
Great. And who do we have online? If you could take turns and just unmute yourself and introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Hi, Denise Kolpak, City of Fargo.
Sebastian McDougall, City of Moorhead.
Stevens, NDSU.
Great. I think that's everyone we have online. Welcome, everybody. Everyone should have had a chance to look over the agenda and packet. If there's no questions, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay. And is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Any opposed, same sign? Motion carries. And you also had a chance to review the minutes from our December 3rd, 2024 meeting. I will entertain a motion to pass the minutes from December 3rd. Wake up, folks. Right?
I think Sebastian.
Sebastian, is there a second?
Also.
So we got McDougall and Brummelman. Sorry. Any discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Great. Let's move on to our action items. Our first one is we are looking at today's bylaws. You've all looked at these before. The one thing I will mention is that this was given a legal review and there were just minor changes, but nothing substantive. So again, all of you should have had a chance to look this over in this packet, but you've also seen it before. Are there any questions about it or anything that anyone wants to discuss on the bylaws? If not, I will be looking for a motion to pass the bylaws for our committee.
Ben moves approval.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Oh, God, I'm sorry about that. Yes, I told you I would forget. We will, for all of our action items, we will require a roll call vote. So I'm going to turn things over to Adam. We'll do a roll call vote. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Flanagan.
Yes.
Griffith.
Yes.
Kolpak.
Yes.
Mastera.
Yes.
McDougall.
Yes.
Reeds.
Yes.
Stevens.
Us.
Strand.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
White.
Yes. Thanks. Okay, moving on to item B2B. I'll turn things over to Julie. We'll be talking about the MetroCog TTC representation from MATBUS.
Thank you. This is pretty straightforward. We currently have one member designated from the City of Fargo Transit and one member designated from City of Moorhead Transit that serve on the TTC, which is the Transportation Technical Committee through MetroCog. And what we would like to do is change from having those specified as members of transit from each city to being two MATBUS members. So that would be anybody on the MATBUS staff that we would put forward, and we wouldn't be tied to just one rep from each city. So it's for simplification when it comes to representation on the TTC. There's no change in the overall number of representatives or anything like that. It's just that they'd be MATBUS representatives.
Right, any discussion, any questions? And Julie, the folks that are representatives were typically the staff anyway, right?
Yes.
Yes,
It
and so,
was, yeah.
and we no longer have any that are employed on the Moorhead side. It's not as if it would then be somebody that was an elected or something.
Correct, right.
Mhm.
These would be MATBUS staff members.
Mhm.
Yep.
Do you have them picked out?
Generally speaking, it's myself and either Cole or Jordan. And then Luke, as our planner, we're transitioning him into a role as well. So we always want to have at least two MATBUS representatives at the TTC meetings. They meet monthly.
Any other questions about this? Great, okay, if not, then I will entertain a motion to improve the change to the MATBUS representation on the MetroCog TTC.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, so how about Thompson moves and Reed seconds? How's that?
That works too.
Great. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Oh, gosh, yeah, sorry. I really need to finish this cup of coffee so my brain will work. Go ahead, Adam. Hopefully on C, I'll get it right.
Ballman,
Yes.
Flanagan, Griffith,
Yes.
Colpack,
Yes.
Mastera,
Yes.
McDougal,
Yes.
Reeds,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Strand,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
White.
Yes. Great. All right, Julie, we're going to roll right into you on C. So the Metropolitan Planning Memorandum of Agreement.
Thank you.
Mhm.
What we have before us here, please, I'll start with making sure everybody understands this is a draft agreement. The executive director of COG, Ben, and I were talking prior to the meeting, what this agreement is, and it's required under federal guidelines that we come together and have a memorandum of agreement between the local MPO, the public transportation provider, the MnDOT, and North Dakota DOT representatives. So it all comes down to cooperation regarding planning in this designated area. And MnDOT and North Dakota DOT, they have a separate MOA designating North Dakota DOT as the lead agency for federal highways and federal transit planning funds and overall management of the planning programs that are part of what we do here in this area. So what we are proposing is, and this agreement, I'll just be blunt, has been floating around for about a year with us trying to come to some sort of an understanding on who's actually going to be signing the agreement. That seems to be the catch. And what happened is we've had change in staff, and so has North Dakota DOT, so has MnDOT. And the only one that's remained steady thus far is MetroCog, because we've also had, as everybody knows, retirement of the Moorhead Transit Manager. So what we are trying to do is put this in front of the committee and get input, anything that you would be interested in providing, any changes you might see, and move this agreement forward. We would want it approved by, we'd have to have our legal review it, even though technically, and it calls it out right in the agreement, this is not legally binding. It's just memorandum of agreement that we will all come together for the planning efforts. And I'm gonna see if Ben has any input. He had a conversation with the North Dakota DOT rep, right? Was it yesterday, Ben?
Day before.
Day before yesterday.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So if you want to provide any input that they had.
So just to add to what Julie's saying, the three Cs are comprehensive, continuing, and coordination. And those are the three tenets or the three legs of the three-legged stool that we use in transportation planning. And you find it throughout both Federal Highway and Federal Transit Administration guidance and regulations and such. And so with that said, part of the holdup, Julie was being polite, part of the holdup was with us as we transition, MetroCog transitions to a transportation management area. Another reason for this agreement is now MATBUS is a large urban transit agency. So those two things. So with the restructuring that MATBUS has been doing throughout the last year, there was a reason to hold off until that was far enough along in the process to be able to sign the agreement. So as it is now, as we were getting close to thinking everything's ready, there were some staff changes at MnDOT. There were some staffing changes at North Dakota DOT. And there's also the question with this group as to who would sign for the transit agency. In some cases, it's the transit director. In some cases, it's the chair of the transit board. So that hasn't been done before since it's a new board. So Julie's basically asking what's y'all's pleasure is how y'all want to sign. It's been decided with MetroCog. Our chair signs it, and that's been that way since for the last 20 years plus that we can go back and research. The regulations, the Code of Federal Regulations allow either to do. So it's whatever the preference of the board is. So that's part of the reason Julie's asking the question today. So the content of the agreement isn't going to change. It's the signatures. And, when they do these electronic signatures through DocuSign, they like to have everybody spelled out very specific. So that's kind of where we're at, because I'm working on the same end with MetroCog, and Julie will also have to run it by the Fargo City Commission since they're their actual direct recipient for the transit agency. I guess it's transit operator. Is that am I using the right word? No, I'm not as big on transit as I am federal highway stuff.
Yeah.
So we're all in agreement on it with the content. It's now we're just trying to button down all the signatures for the agreement.
Yeah.
And just to reiterate, so the decision that we're asked to make today is to who would be the signatory, and the proposal is that it would be the the transit director.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions or comments? Any questions or comments?
And if Ms. White, if I can add, I took this agreement to the MetroCog Executive Committee with the same discussion that, the waiting on signatures,
Yes.
deciding on signatures, and they had no issue with it. This is why I know there's several members of the policy board on this board as well that haven't seen it yet.
Mhm.
So that was the direction of the executive committee, was when the signatures were all squared away, it'll be on the policy board's agenda. So that meeting's tomorrow, and it's not on the agenda. So it'll hopefully be on next month, and we'll get it all wrapped up.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just indicative of all these little things that we have to tie up as we make this big transition. So,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah.
Strand moves approval.
Okay.
Second.
All right. We have motion from Strand and seconded by Mastera. And is there any further discussion? If not, I will call for a roll call vote.
Bummelman,
Yes.
Flanagan,
Yes.
Griffith,
Yes.
Colpack,
Aye.
Mastera,
Yes.
McDougal,
Yes.
Reeds,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Strand, Thompson,
Yes.
White.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, we'll move down to item 2D, budget adjustments, a request to allocate indirect costs for new revenue and expenses financial model. And I'll turn it over to Susan Thompson, the City of Fargo Director of Finance.
Hello, we've been working on this for several months. Just a little background. I think as is typical in a lot of entities, the City of Fargo allocates out some of our general fund expenses, service organizations, basically to enterprise funds. Previous to 21, transit had been included is in the general fund. Then it got moved to an enterprise fund, and we did not start those allocations. So as we were kind of reviewing this model, we believe that it would be fair that transit absorb, a portion of overhead costs associated with information services and human resources, because those two departments work on transit exclusively. I don't think any other cities help out with those two departments. That is less than we typically allocate out. We allocate out basically all of our service organizations to the enterprise. And in this case, I'm just proposing that we would do those two, since this is a new concept. We worked with Megan and Jenica and Moorhead to make sure that it is allowable with some of their state funding. And they found that it is. So we modeled this out based on the allocations of the allocation model. This will be a new concept to West Fargo and NDSU. So I guess I'm interested in their thoughts on this as well. I've had lots of conversations with Jim already. So that would be our proposal. We would be allocating out for this calendar year $411,000. Of course, the brunt of it would be paid by Fargo Transit, but it would trickle down to Moorhead at $115,000, West Fargo at $25,000, and NDSU at about $23,000. So, any questions or comments?
So do we have anybody from, we don't have anybody from NDSU? Oh, we do. Thank you. Good. Okay.
Yeah.
How about West Fargo?
No,
West Fargo.
But they're on this, but they,
Yeah.
yes, okay. Okay, and so they received the material. Okay, just want to confirm that. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to pass the requested budget adjustment to allot indirect costs to new revenue and expense financial.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, and is there a second?
a second.
Okay. And we'll have a roll call vote on this as well.
Bummelman,
Yes.
Flanagan,
Yes.
Griffith,
Yes.
Colpack,
Aye.
Mastera,
Yes.
McDougal,
Yes.
Reeds,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Strand,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
White.
Yes. Your motion carries. Okay, before we discuss 2E, I just want to make sure everybody has the green packet. This is in addition to the packet that we received earlier. We're going to be asked today to consider the 2025 Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Programs for both Fargo and for Moorhead. The packet included Fargo, and this is Moorhead, but they're substantially similar. And so, Sean, I'll turn things over to you.
Thank you. So the FTA is moving to a two-tiered DBE program system, and Fargo and Moorhead are both under tier 1. With that comes some additional reporting requirements for a semi-annual DBE reporting that I do every 6 months. Most specifically, it includes some additional data regarding a bidders list and the information we gather when we're requesting proposals for projects that we might have. So there is some minor differences between the Fargo plan and the Moorhead plan. Before Lori retired, she did review this plan with me, and she did also have the City of Moorhead attorney review it as well. And most of the differences are in the cover sheet for the Moorhead plan. Just the attorney reviewed it and had some language changes made to kind of reflect the new relationship between Fargo and Moorhead. So otherwise, it's pretty much the same as the Fargo plan. And so we're just requesting that we can authorize staff to bring it to City of Moorhead Council or City of Fargo Commission for approval before we upload it to the FTA.
And I'll just mention too, that just even though it wasn't in the packet, part of it too is the timeline is pretty tight. So you want to get both of those approved, so again, so they can get before the
Yeah,
council
yes.
commissions.
Yeah, we have a March 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, is there any discussion or questions for Sean? And I assume, can we put these both together in one motion, both Fargo and Moorhead? Okay.
Thanks. So, yeah.
Okay. So if hearing no discussion, I'll entertain a motion to pass the 2025 disadvantaged business enterprise programs for both Fargo and Moorhead.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call vote.
Bummelman.
Yes.
Flanagan. Griffith.
Yes.
Colpack.
Aye.
Mastra.
Yes.
McDougal.
Aye.
Reeds.
Yes.
Stevens.
Yes.
Strand.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
White.
Yes. Motion carries. Okay, moving on to 2F, federal funds distribution between Fargo and Moorhead. Again, everyone should have had a chance to review this in the packet. I will turn things over to Julie to discuss it.
Thank you. There's been discussion between the city of Fargo and the city of Moorhead regarding the federal transit funds that come into the TMA, this metro area. There was a change when we went over the 200,000 threshold and moved to a larger. The funds come directly to the city of Fargo. As far as there's 3 buckets of money. There's 5307, which is mostly used for operating, but can be used for capital. There's 5310 and 5339, which are strictly capital dollars. So what we have proposed and discussed at length between the two cities is what I hate to use the word swap of funds, but that's essentially what it's going to be. The 5307 money, again, it can be used for capital and operating. Fargo always uses it all for operating. And with the $5.5 million shortfall that Fargo experienced this year, as far as operating dollars go, the proposal was if we could have access to Moorhead's $5307, utilize those for operating, we would in turn allocate the 5310 and 5339 money to Moorhead so that they would have access to those capital funds and be able to pursue their projects that they have in the capital improvement plan. So my understanding is, and Jenica, I understand you want the dollars spelled out in the agreement, which we had as an attachment, but we can also spell those out more specifically in the agreement. So if you look at, it's a pretty straightforward agreement, and there's an attachment that will show you what amount of dollars we're talking about when it comes to this particular swap. So the total amount coming into the urban area for 5307 money is $3.822 million. And Moorhead's portion of that allocation would be $856,812. So the proposal is that would be added back to Fargo's 2.9 million, and Fargo would get the full $3.8 million. In addition, then, of course, as you can see in the capital plan under 5339 and 5310, those dollars, the 56,812, would be made up in that distribution of capital dollars. It's a lot of numbers, a lot of projects, a lot of words, but it's pretty straightforward. I know Susan, Jenica have had many conversations, Jordan. So if anybody has anything additional that you want to add to that, did I miss anything?
No, but I'd like to say that I think this is a really creative solution for this situation, and Fargo really appreciates Moorhead's willingness to work with us on this. This allows us to free up some of our current year operating issues, but it was a very, very creative solution. I've sat in on a lot of these meetings and we haven't really talked about the financial condition other than a few little comments every once in a while. It's serious. Julie said, Fargo's subsidy is $5.5 million, but as a whole, transit is in the whole $10 million. Fargo's share is 5.5. Moorhead's is approximately 4. And the difference is that the state helps with Minnesota's, and it currently does not to a very much extent. We're working on legislation on that, but we all just need to know that Fargo can't continue to support this at that $5.5 million level. And if we don't get help through the state, we're all going to have to look at the budget and some choices, increasing revenues, decreasing expenses. So this is a first good start and we appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll just agree that it was a great idea. So for this exchange, and then like Julian mentioned, I guess the one suggestion would just be to put that amount directly in. I know you have the attachment, but just to put that amount directly in the agreement, and then just so you all know too, that this would just be something annually. We would look at it every year, kind of go through those capital project needs and determine the amount that for that exchange. So.
And just for clarification, so for everybody else, so we're talking about a minor revision to the resolution that would under item 3 or under number 3, just to add the amount, because actually in the actual resolution, it never lists the amount. You have to go to the attachment. And so we would change that to list the amount, that total, the 856, 812 would be in number 3.
I think one other thing, if I may, the $5,307 that Moorhead has been receiving, they are, how many years is it 3 years that you currently still have in place that you can?
I don't know how many years, it's about $2 million.
Okay.
Right?
That sounds about
Yeah.
About 2 million, okay. So they still have access to funds that are a couple years older. And like Jenica said, we would revisit this annually. And the state of Minnesota currently for this biennium is funding transit at about 95% of their operating needs. So we're not shorting the city of Moorhead at all. I just want to make sure that that's clear.
I'll just add to, I think in the short term, this is a really great creative solution, and it shows the opportunities that we have of having this something that is even more seamless than it was before, where we're working together on these. And I think the bigger question is in the long term, how can we as a group work at advocating for better support on, from the state on the North Dakota side. I know on the Minnesota side, one of our legislative priorities that we're working on is just looking at greater flexibility too. And some of the ways that we're funded by the state right now that aren't specifically designated right for Moorhead, that maybe we can work on some changes there. And so maybe there may be some places where we as a group could help to advocate for those things. So yeah, just thinking long-term of how we could work at leveraging the power that we have here to try to address some of those and continue to grow. But I think this is a great solution for better using the money that we have.
Thank you.
And if I may too, just to piggyback on what Julie said, Moorhead's not getting shorted. So all those projects that we're doing with 5339 and 5310 money, Moorhead would have done with that 5307 money. So it's they're not, again, nothing's being removed from their budget. They're all their needs are being met with the money that we have. So.
Any other questions or discussion?
Madam Chair, I'm just curious, we've had some communication with our congressional offices. Is there anything on continuing there? I just have this feeling, especially Senator Kramer from North Dakota side, we should step up our communication and our act.
Agreed.
Does anybody have any updates on our relationship with them, or maybe some of us could put our heads together and like we did with the state a while back, draft a letter to our congressional leadership, asking for guidance and support on and awareness of this critical issue.
Yeah, I think, what would we, would we, how did we do that? When we did that with MetroCog, was it, we just put together an ad hoc group that wrote a letter, and that was.
Ben might know, I wasn't in that group, but I remember we did that.
Executive committee that and had directed staff to draft a letter, which, you know, was sent to the governor's office.
Okay.
That was with the with the state.
It was in North Dakota DOT.
Yes, ma'am.
Am I wet behind the ears that that's the right ask to do besides the state legislature? I'm just curious, you know,
I think Commissioner Strand, what occurred in the past back before 5339 money, it was 5309 money. And the way that we would go after or request the dollars was we did do a letter spearheaded by MetroCog prior to Ben's tenure here. And we would put all of our asks for capital in one letter and send it to our the representatives and the senators and then they would advocate for those dollars for appropriations at the federal level. So I don't think there's any harm in putting together a similar letter along those lines. Any support they can offer would be fantastic.
This ask would be for operating, though, not.
It would be for operating, yes, not capital.
Might be harder to get,
yeah.
because it's, I mean, everyone's having this issue throughout this nation. So everyone's gonna be asking them for something.
But I don't think it hurts to have the visibility and just stay kind of present in their thoughts if there's anything that they can do. The transportation bill that's currently in place has another 2 years left on it. So I don't know what they could do in the scope of what is out there right now, but they will be starting soon, I would hope, to be looking at putting a new transportation bill in place. And with the new administration, I'm not sure how that's going to shake out.
Julie, did that come from the policy board, that letter to the state, or did it come from whom?
It technically came from MetroCog and went, and went to it was Ken Conrad, Earl Pomeroy, and I know the third is gonna escape me, but that was on the North Dakota side.
My thinking is we open up that door and keep it open and walk it through it and keep that focus in front of them if we can. However we do it, and if there's a sense of this, I would advance that motion that staff and administration prepare such a communication to our congressional offices. Maybe on both states, I don't know.
You're making a motion?
I am.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second,
Yeah.
okay. And this would be something that if the staff would prepare, it would come to us for discussion. There questions or discussion of the motion? Commissioner Strand, do you want to just repeat the motion one more time?
Thank you, Deb. Administration and staff prepare a letter for our review to send to congressional leadership, advising them of our financial dilemma and challenges does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It does.
And needs.
I think it's worth exploring. My thought it's I would make sure that we sort of wait in the timing of it, of seeing, especially with the new administration just coming in. But the other thing, and not to sort of sidetrack it, but it seems like the state issue is even more pressing. And so again, and this is, I would say probably I'm sure just as we do in Moorhead, the city of Fargo has their own legislative goals, but if there's things that we could do to advocate on that end, because I just know looking at the formula that they use to determine funding for transit, for public transportation in the state of North Dakota, I was shocked by the disparities in the per capita. I mean, I can't remember which cities that it was like, you could be, driving these people around for hundreds of, and then you see what you get, for
$95.
yeah, it's not, it's you can't, it's unsustainable.
Madam Chair, when's the next meeting of this committee?
February 19th.
Mhm.
So by February, the legislature will be well into their work in North
Yeah.
Dakota, and by March, they'll be approaching getting done.
Mhm.
So I would, if people are open, we can have a draft review in February and see how it looks and see what new
Yeah.
information is there nationally and at the state level and tweak it if we need to.
Sounds good. Other discussion? No, go ahead.
Just to add on, we do have a senator in North Dakota who is at a state senator, who is willing to bring forward a proposal that Susan and I have been meeting with him regularly and providing information. And he is willing to introduce a bill to look at getting an appropriation we're talking just the urbans in North Dakota. There's a bill in place right now that was discussed, I believe it was last week at the legislative level in North Dakota, that would be more focused on a paratransit allocation, additional funding to the state formula that's out there right now. And they're asking for $2 million. So ours would be a separate bill that we're pursuing. So it would be in addition to this ask of the congressional folks.
We've been collaborating with some of the other large cities. Because
Yes.
Everybody knows things from Fargo aren't always well received in Bismarck if it's just from Fargo. So we're working with Minot and Grand Forks. The challenge is that Bismarck just passed a public safety sales tax that included transit. So they don't want to play with us because their constituents will wonder why they did the sales tax and need additional. Yeah, exactly. What should I? So anyway, we do have a couple partners in this as well and are working towards that.
Great. Is there any further discussion on the motion by Commissioner Strand? Hearing none, this does not require a roll call. Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, sorry. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And then did we actually vote on 2F? We did not, right? Okay, so again, bringing us back to the federal funding. And so we have a resolution amended. I'm requesting a motion to pass the resolution as amended. Again, the only change was to add in the amount.
I would make that motion.
Okay, and is there a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, we'll do a roll call vote.
Hummelman,
Yes.
Flanagan, Griffin.
Yes.
Kolpak.
Any other questions? Great. Any other questions or comments? Let's see, do we have them back? Looks like we've got at least a couple of them back. I'm not sure who one of them is now. H. Benke is new.
That's Heidi. She's in our staff.
Okay, great. Okay.
Our step.
So we may have lost Commissioner Kolpak and whoever is our NDSU person. But, Britt C. Oh, there you go. Oh,
Yep,
that's the NDSU sign. Yeah. All right, welcome back. We just had an informational update on the vehicle lease and insurance, and we'll move on to a ridership update by Luke.
Yeah, I'm gonna go over ridership by route between
So you'll notice at the top, it's got the route numbers and the city that it was in, which case you're unfamiliar. Route 1 last year, 6%. That was in Moorhead. Route 2 down 3%. Route 3 was up 10. Route 4 was up 7. Route 5 was up 0.25%. Route 6 that runs in Dilworth was up 16%. Route 9 in Moorhead was down 3%. Sorry about the color. Route 11 in Fargo up 12%. 13 was up 22%. Route 14 was up 10. Route 15, our most popular route, was up 12%. Route 16 was down 18%. Likely because it had no Saturday service in 2024 between January and May. So a lot of that ridership probably moved over to Route 15, probably boosting those numbers a little bit. Route 17 was down 3%. Route 18 was down 4%. Route 20 that services Fargo and West Fargo was down 1%. Route 24 that also services Fargo and West Fargo was up 10%. Our Link FM ridership in Moorhead and Fargo was down 0.25%. And our Fargo on-demand service in the industrial park was down 18%. Orange row there, these are all NDSU routes. Route 31 was up 98%. As Route 32 was discontinued for the fall semester, so and Route 31 was kind of expanded to service some areas that 32 used to, so all that ridership switched to 31 and 33. So Route 32 down 43% since it wasn't running at all. Route 33 was up 8%. Route 34, 11%, and NDSU on-demand service was up 10%. So in total for Moorhead, we were up 2%. Fargo, West Fargo, and NDSU service was up 4%, and system-wide up 3% for the year. The next page is just our past public ridership. NDSU down 2%, MSU up 36%, Concordia was up 62%, M State was up 84%, and NDSCS was up 41%. Any questions about any of that?
Questions, comments? Anyone online have questions or comments? I'll have to say, oh, go ahead. Do we have somebody online?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay.
No comments.
Okay. I know, I think we've talked about this before, well, first of all, it's nice to see the numbers going back up again too, but some of the changes seem to correspond with construction. So, some of the Moorhead ones, when there's construction, the ridership is down, and I'm not surprised to see MSUM being a big bump, and probably because a lot of the construction that was right around campus is, that's finished up. And so, is that what you've noticed too?
I think so. I'm a little less familiar with the Moorhead roads.
Okay.
I guess there was a little additional service on Route 2.
We will move right on to our next informational item, which is 3C, safety and security update by Cole.
Thank you. So for the sake of time, I won't go into all of the included feedbacks that we have here, but just providing a little bit of background, MATBUS has seen an increase in safety and security incidents post-pandemic. That's kind of a trend across transit agencies across the United States. Anything from public intoxication to disorderly conduct, a few instances of aggressive behavior, and kind of everything in between. We're seeing it all. Kind of gives an interesting input into kind of what our dispatchers and boots on the ground staff see day to day. So I definitely encourage all of you to take a look into some of these instances. It'll kind of open your eyes to some of the things that we see, unfortunately. a good majority of that is at our ground transportation center, our main transfer hub. A couple years ago, I believe we were the #1 call source for the Fargo Police Department. So kind of gives some insight there. We have worked with the Fargo Police Department, had a couple of different meetings with them over the last few years too, looking at possible solutions, ways to curb some of that. We have implemented a few things along the way. Kind of one of their suggestions was essentially to make it less comfortable for people, remove vending machines to kind of deter people who are loitering in our facilities, sleeping in our facilities, that sort of thing. Another thing that we transitioned early in 2024 is we no longer rented the space to Jefferson Lines, an out-of-state travel company. We did see some issues, again, kind of detailed in some of these feedbacks from some of their passengers as well. So that definitely incorporated into some of the security instances we were seeing. The Federal Transit Administration is definitely taking a harder look at security issues because of post-pandemic concerns. With that, we are receiving additional reporting requirements for safety and security incidents, as well as being required to show that we are working towards mitigating some of them. We do have a safety committee that meets, I believe it's every other month, to discuss different safety concerns, whether it be issues that drivers are seeing, large scale route issues, things that we can do to curb issues with passengers. And that's made up of both management staff and frontline workers. So we kind of get a mix of everybody's perspective on that. So with that, I'll continue to provide these updates on safety and security incidents and provide these feedback information for everybody to take a look at and kind of see what's happening at our main transit hub. But we're also looking for any input that any of the members here have as to what we can do to try to improve safety for both our passengers, but especially our staff and our drivers, which there are some times where we've had comments from drivers where they do feel scared to come to work, which nobody should have to face. So we're definitely looking for anything that we can brainstorm or future implementations we can make to help improve that for them.
I think if I could add on to what Paul was talking about, when the drivers are sitting in the seat and focused on driving. I know one particularly bad incident was the driver. During the COVID pandemic, we had barriers installed on the buses that don't completely block off the driver compartment, but they do assist with that. It wasn't intentionally done for security reasons. It was done at the time for the pandemic, but this particular situation where the driver was getting punched in the head, the person that did it punched out the barrier and was still beating on the driver. Our staff is not equipped to deal with that. We're not social workers. We're not security folks. We provide a lot of training. I know their general manager, Matt Pinotti, is here in the room if he wants to add to any of this, but some of these issues are very serious, and any input, any assistance, any advice, suggestions that anyone may have would be more than welcome to help us address some of these issues.
Is there anything equipped into a panic button? Yes. Like in buildings, you have a panic button. Is there something like that in buses?
Yes, we do.
Are they installed now?
They are. Yep.
So if something like that happens, the driver hits the button and it alerts.
It alerts our dispatch.
So
Yes.
that's already happened.
That's yes. And Jordan, maybe you want to talk to how that actually works with.
Yeah, yep, there is a panic button on every bus that the driver does touch it or hit the button. It does alert dispatch that there's an emergency on the bus. It gives dispatch the location of the bus. It also displays on the outside of the bus that there's an emergency inside the bus. So Yeah, and those are in place now and have been for a while, so.
Does it go to law enforcement?
It does not go to law enforcement, but it does notify dispatch that will contact law enforcement.
Does dispatch notify law enforcement?
Yes,
Do they know what's happening when they get the button pushed?
they not necessarily, no, they just know there's an emergency on the bus. So, and we are working on, with our new AVL dispatch software, there's the possibility for us to live tap into the camera system on the bus. So if there is an emergency, the dispatchers can log into that bus and look at live video what's happening in the moment. So I'm working on that with our surveillance system vendor to get that up and running.
And I'm also wondering, Jordan, that also, but if we could take that and tie it into maybe the law enforcement's flock camera systems. So if the law enforcement zooms in and knows there's a trouble, this bus gets on camera. I don't know, I'm just.
Possibility, yep.
I'll just say too, I hope everybody took the time to read through the incidents and the fact that this isn't even all of them because there were a long period of time where they weren't being documented. And I think putting it in the context of a couple of things. One is we've had an ongoing driver shortage and, we can provide, higher pay and things like that for drivers, but if they don't feel safe, they aren't going to stay on the job. And then every time we lose drivers and then have to pay to bring in more, that's an added cost. And the other thing is looking at what is happening in cities when people don't feel safe, they won't use public transit. And, you read about what the drivers are experiencing, but also, passengers that were physically assaulted, passengers that, we had I read multiple ones in there of people that were exposing themselves to passengers on the buses. It's appalling. And I know looking at places like in the Twin Cities where they've invested so much in their light rail system, and then post-pandemic, people don't ride on it. They've got all of these empty trains because people don't feel safe. And so now you've got all of this investment and this huge loss because of these things. So it's important that we're responding to these things because otherwise, why are we paying for, investing in public transit if in the end, nobody will use it? So I really do think I'm glad that you brought it and I appreciate getting regular updates, but I think we need to do more. So I'm wondering, you said we have a safety committee that has staff and frontline workers. Should we take that up a step and have, more of a, I would love to see some sort of a task force or a group that will work on creating some recommendations of what we could do. And some of it may be putting some new resources. Some could be working collaboratively. I'm glad to hear that you've been working with the city of the Fargo Police Department. Perhaps we could have law enforcement on that and to give some more recommendations. I'm not sure if you've worked with like Fargo Cast Public Health, but looking at because I know from the, looking at issues that we're having with folks that are struggling with addiction, that obviously that is a big contributing factor. But could we have something where we are not just having those folks get together and talk about it, but, working on preparing some recommendations for changes? Because if we don't do this, things are going to get worse. And again, it will lead to other problems.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely something that we can put together, try to find different areas of the community to be able to provide input on that and create some deliverables. We do utilize some other resources with Fargo Cast Public Health. We do utilize their mobile outreach program occasionally if it doesn't, justify police presence. So we do have contact with them, but it would be good to get some input there. And another thing too to mention, it's not entirely all doom and gloom. We are making some increases in our overall security too. We've recently been out for request for proposal for security services. And with that, it came in under budget, what we were expecting. So we were able to increase our total hours of security by 4 additional hours starting beginning of next month. So little things that we can do like that, I know definitely provide some peace of mind for the drivers, but Yeah, we'll definitely look into talking to Fargo PD, Cass Public Health, and then if any of you guys have any other suggestions for agencies or anybody else that would be interested in being on the task force.
It might be good to at least have one person from this group too, just so that, again, to keep them in the loop and. Other thoughts on this? Questions, comments?
I want to say, ground level, it is a situation where we've lost probably in 2024 a dozen drivers to this, and you just can't keep us safe. And I have conversations with our drivers pretty much daily and saying, what do you think we can do? And so I bring those to the Julie and Jordan and the city people, and it is a situation where it's hard to convince somebody to stay if they don't feel safe. And it's disappointing where, I'll get on the bus and ride 2 or 3 rounds and say, wow, yeah, it's bad, and one of our busiest routes, Route 15, that's a bad route, and it gets really difficult to convince those drivers that we're going to keep them safe when, we had, I think, 3 incidents in 2024 that were pretty serious.
I appreciate you sharing that. And is there anything, so one is looking at long-term, how do we work on addressing this? In the short term, is there anything we could be doing differently right now to help ensure the safety of the drivers?
Short term, I don't think there's anything like right now we can do. We talked about the panic button. When I talk to drivers about that, well, then you have a panic button, you can hit that, like in the moment, you don't think about that. Right. And I guess I get that, right? If I'm getting punched at, I'm not going to think about hitting the panic button. I'm going to try to think about protecting myself. And so, Jordan and I have had a couple different conversations about a full enclosure in the bus, but how does that work? Those are things I know that we're looking into, but immediate, I don't know if there's really anything we can do, to be honest with you.
Is that something we can continue to look into and see if there are other alternatives?
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
And we never have secure, if there were routes that were particularly bad or particular times of the day when they're particularly bad, would it make sense to even have a security that rides on the bus with them? Because again, if you may spend money there, but if you save because you don't have the constant turnover, like if we were able to pinpoint some of the really problematic times and routes.
My 2 cents of that, like 15, if you put somebody on that route, that's great, right? But what drives them to go into the 16, it still gets them semi in that same area. Well, there's gonna be security on 15, but there won't be on 16. Right. And so that's where it gets really difficult.
My suggestion is Jordan and Julie and all of you have a brainstorm session with law enforcement with their new technology, their license plate readers, their front cameras. Maybe there's some intersection there that's happening across the country. But maybe there's some compatibility, and then they're working with businesses to incorporate their cameras. But just to see if there's any opportunities there for us and them stepping up security while benefiting from our cameras and their cameras and systems, each other's systems. Bill Offeld might be the guy to talk to.
Bill Offeld?
I'm guessing.
Yeah, I could start with Bill. I know him.
Even things like old body cams, but I don't know, just.
Yeah, any suggestion is appreciated. Yeah.
Do we have security cameras on the buses?
Yes.
Maybe we could make it more obvious to the passengers that they're being recorded,
That too. That's
Yeah.
a big sticker right on the barrier.
Yeah, but if you're dealing with somebody who's seriously mentally ill, I don't think they care.
Yeah.
I mean, to me,
That's
as I'm listening to this, it's just, hardening the driver compartment is probably, the most immediate thing that can happen to address the issue. Having, security it's just, we can't afford to put them on every bus, so you look at the numbers
Right.
and you try to, reduce the impact here. I mean, technology and everything is fine, but it just feels like there's a capital need here.
Mhm.
And FTA is taking this seriously, obviously, and they are providing 100% grant funds to agencies that are willing to, with private companies, to develop a fully enclosed bus of the future is what they're calling it. I've said it on a couple webinars. The concepts are pretty cool and the concepts work. It's just going to take a lot of investment, a lot of capital investment.
Yeah, there's a lot of interaction that the drivers have with passengers for fare box and questions and things like that.
Wheelchair securements.
Wheelchair securements, they have to get out of their seats and provide that assistance. But I agree. I would like us to go to a more enclosed compartment. And I just think whatever it's in, like you said, it's not just the drivers, it's the other passengers that are seeing the behavior and are afraid of the, and I don't know that I'm just speaking for myself, but it just seems like that invisible boundary that people didn't used to cross, they have no problem crossing it now and saying and doing things that maybe just didn't fly. Okay, now I sound like my parents, but didn't fly, 10 years ago, but it just, and to how to deal with that. And we sit in on all the training, all the safety training and security training and things that are suggested by, industry standards and other folks in our industry on how to deal with some of these situations. But I did read an article and I thought it was well put by a guy who's transit manager, that it's a societal issue. It's a community issue. We're not equipped to deal with it. We're not trained social workers. We're not, trained law enforcement. And it's a partnership, like you were saying, Commissioner Strand, with PD and everybody else to help us address this issue and not feel like, and have our drivers feel like they're sitting out there not being thought about and assisted. It's, it's just not an overnight solution.
Yeah. Thank you. Is there anything else anyone would like to say on this topic? Well, thank you very much for bringing the information forward. And again, I look forward to continued discussions on this. Taryn, thanks for waiting on it. We'll finish up with our discussion of the 2025 MATBUS marketing plan.
Thank you. So I know some of you are newer to working with MATBUS, so I have laid out some of our goals for 2025, as well as some of our promotions and partnerships that we work with throughout the year. Some of these goals are going to carry over year to year. We're always working to add more education, more accessibility for new riders, and printed and digital materials that are just going to make things easier for current and prospective riders. Some of those things are working more to create some video content that can be accessed for a variety of topics. Constantly assessing our website, matbus.com, and adding new FAQs. And then for the past couple of years, we've been working to maintain a more consistent digital marketing presence, moving more into a digital marketing space. This year, we are also doing quite a bit with Matt Paratransit. Last year, they got a new software called VIA that has resulted in an app that para riders can download. It's called MATBUS Paratransit. And it is a great way to give the riders more independence to schedule their own rides without having to rely on our operating hours and speaking with somebody over the phone. And it also reduces our call volume for our staff. So working to promote that a little bit more to current or prospective riders, updating the rider guide, which is a brochure that we would send to all newly approved riders, and also working on the website structure for that. Promoting more of those digital tools. Our Connect app, which was launched a couple of years ago, that allows for mobile payments. We have ridematbus.com, which was new last year, and it is live tracking. So you can watch your bus in real time as it moves down the road. You can also click on your bus stop and see when the next buses are arriving. You know, is it in 5 minutes? Is it in 20 minutes? And then also our trip planning is always very helpful. It's available with Google Maps or through our website, and also in our Connect app. Also this year, we'd like to engage with local businesses a bit more. A couple ways that we can do that is through our 31-day business pass. It's a pass that business owners or managers can purchase for their employees. It's a reduced rate of $27. And when this was initially introduced, it was specifically for downtown businesses, but is now available to anybody throughout the metro. Also our advertising wraps that go on the outside of our buses. And there are also some interior ad options that people can use. So getting that out there is more of an option for folks when they're looking at their upcoming marketing budgets. And then also 2026 is going to be our 50th anniversary. So just starting that process of getting ready for what that celebration looks like. As Lori Bembeek left us, we got to pillage her office for all her historical materials. And my last couple of interns have been scanning lots of photos. So there's gonna be lots of fun stuff to share. And then just quick overview of what our larger promotions look like throughout the calendar year. We'll be working on the business outreach right away, February, March. Earth Week is a promotion we do every year called Get Your Can on the Bus. Like a can. And you can ride free with an empty aluminum can. So it's a way to give a promotion and an incentive to our riders. Also, we collect all of the cans and recycle them. And then any funds that we get from that recycling process are donated. For the past few years, we've been giving those to Homeward Animal Shelter. Our 90-day youth pass is usually something we promote near the end of the school year into summer, but it is available year round. And it's unlimited rides for $27 for a 90-day period. Street fair is usually a big one for us, especially with Link FM. It's a great way to reach new riders, introduce public transit to folks who may not have ever used it before. So we have the Link FM downtown shuttle, as well as some system-wide discounts if people want to park and ride or ride from their home when they normally might not. Back to school is a busy time for all of our partner colleges that are in our UPass program. All of those students get free rides with their student ID. And we spend a lot of time on campus talking to students about that, creating brochures and printed materials and telling them about the mobile tools like trip planning. A lot of those students are new to transit, coming from maybe smaller towns. So telling them how they can learn how to ride, like our How to Ride video. Try MATBUS Week happens in the fall, and this one's more geared toward education for folks who may not have considered transit, as well as appreciating the customers that we already have. So we have customer appreciation events at the GTC. One of them that we always enjoy doing is freshly popped popcorn. It smells really great. And then we offer free rides for the system as well. And then Season of Giving is a new one that we just started in December of 2023. It is a free ride on Saturdays in December with the donation of a non-perishable food item. And we collect all of those each week and then they get donated to the emergency food pantry. We weigh them is kind of one of the ways that we quantify that. And this past December, we collected 619 pounds, which was about 100 pounds more than we did the year before. So we're looking at a success as a success. I've listed some of our other community partnerships we have, different organizations or events we work with. Might involve us providing free ride coupons, bringing a bus for people to explore, or setting up like a table with giveaways and information. And I've also included our list of free or reduced fares that we generally do year over year. And we'll include more of those in between things like coupons for rides to the Red River Market or to Moorhead River Arts events. So you can take a look at that as you like. That would be it for me today, unless there's any questions.
Great. Excited to see the plans for the 50th anniversary.
Yes, I've been meeting.
So that would have been, so what year was that?
76.
Okay, so we all have to dress like that. All right, get your bell bottom.
Yeah, yeah.
Any questions or comments for Karen?
At some point, could you look at revenue opportunities, how much we're bringing in on wraps and that sort of thing, just see if there's opportunities to increase that?
Yeah.
At a different meeting, maybe we.
Yeah, I believe we have a report that shows what we get from advertising wraps as well as our bus benches.
How many buses do we have wrapped and how many not wrapped? Would you just guess?
I normally have only worked with the Moorhead buses and I'm just kind of starting to look more at Fargo. Moorhead, I'd say we have full wraps on or some sort of wrap on at least half of the fleet. Whether it's a full bus wrap that goes on all sides or a king wrap, which is just a smaller one on the side of the bus below the windows. We also have a couple of trade agreements that we have with some local entities like WDAY or some of the schools where we will let them have the bus wrap, and then instead of paying us for it, we will get a similar amount of advertising through them. So WDIY will produce videos for us and air them for their exchange.
On the Fargo side, I'd say we have 8 to 10 buses that are wrapped that bring in revenue, and then we probably have around 8 to 10 other buses that have wraps through trade agreements, or NDSU has a lot of wraps that we don't get revenue for, but we do have some buses currently, so it's advertised.
I'm repeating its record. I always say this. We can use those wraps ourselves too. And the more we promote our own work, and promote our ridership, and promote our services, I think we should dedicate more as when we can more monies to that fund to self-promote and show people how to promote and also capitalize on those opportunities that other, would pay an arm and leg for. But I think it's just great opportunities, these buses that we could be wrapping more of, especially with an anniversary coming up and something like big coming, to look forward to.
Yeah, and we do have a couple of those in the fleet. We have a Fargo and a Moorhead bus that each have a full bus wrap promoting our Connect app. We have a couple that are more kind of general branding that we especially will use when we go to events. We have our wrap that has the theme of a place for everybody, promoting all the different types of people who can use the bus. And then we also have window decals, putting out information for driver employment too.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, moving on to other business. Is there any other business that needs to come before the body?
Madam Chair, please remind me what our meeting is.
We meet on the
19th, I think.
It's the Third Wednesday of every month. Third Wednesday at 9 a.m. Any other questions or comments? I do have one last thing to mention. I want to take a minute to thank all of the staff that put together the float for the holiday lights parade. And I know the Morehead City Council has been really happy to have the opportunity to ride with MATBUS over the last few years, and it's so fun, and you do all the work, and we just throw out way too much candy. But again, it was another great year, lots of fun, and thank you for your work on that. Hearing nothing else, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone. See you next month.